What exactly is a
Yes.
contracting officer, and how important it is for people to know people who hold your position?
Contracting officers are given a delegated authority from the head of the contracting agency. They are able to issue contracts, modifications, things of that nature on behalf of the federal government. Contracting officers are the ones who actually sign the paperwork. We are the final authority on the contract, on whatever action you're doing. Contract specialists are usually the ones who handle things in the more administrative area, but we work together to make sure that the contract includes each and everything that is supposed to on behalf of the government, the contractors. So it's important to know who your COs are because we are the final authority at the end of the day. It's a very warranting career field, knowing that I get the opportunity to choose and help select businesses who are underappreciated or overlooked when it comes to these opportunities.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make when trying to do business, either with the Department of Commerce or just federal agencies in particular?
Being overly zealous to be a prime first. It's nothing wrong with trying to be a sub first.
Right.
Saves you more time, saves you more money. You're partnering with somebody who has something already established. And
Yes.
then you can grow to that point of being a prime in the future. It takes nothing to want to put your hat in the ring at the subcontractor level first, just so that you can build up that experience, enter into the federal space. Just look at all of the different options, and there's opportunities everywhere.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Dr. Karwanna D, your government contract expert. Hey, you already know that I'm a true believer in knowledge because I believe that knowledge is power, as they say. But for me, I really also believe that the application of knowledge is even more powerful because that is what brings the transformation. But guess what? Not everybody knows what to do all the time. And in this government contracting space, things are constantly changing. The rules are constantly changing, and the line of entry is always moving. And so you definitely want to always be in the know, right? So that's one thing that I do pride myself is being in the know of what's new, what's changing, what's constantly evolving so that you can actually continue to get results and thrive as a small business. And so today, I'm really excited about the inside expert, who is Jamaica Anderson. She is a contracting officer directly with the Department of Commerce. And here, definitely, she has her ear to the floor on what's constantly evolving. And, she's here to just share some nuggets and some best tips on how to actually navigate the government contracting space. So welcome in, Jamaica. How are
Yes,
you?
thank you for having me. I'm doing well, enjoying my day off. That's the thing about government. You can have that AWS schedule. So my Fridays are off. So I'm just honored to be here to share some information with you guys.
I appreciate you. So, okay, so your contract officer, you reached out because you wanted to bring value, and I know that interest came from somewhere. So, can you tell me a little bit about what you do and like what you're looking to do with the audience or those small businesses that are looking to do, like, how are you looking to help entrepreneurs?
So I definitely just want to communicate and I want to educate. So, one, I find that usually when it comes to the government space, people are hesitant to make those connections out of fear of overpromising, under delivering, and things of that nature. So, I just want to break the barrier for the communication to be there. Hey, we're both human. We
Right.
both have a goal to meet at the end of the day. Their goal, being a small business, would be to enter into the federal space. My goal as a contracting officer, meeting my small business goals as a CEO, and helping the economy do what it's supposed to do, right? And so my goal is definitely to communicate, and with that communication comes education. There's just certain things you just don't know until you get to someone who has the information you're looking for. Sometimes there are so many things out there on the websites, on the guidance, or it's just so much guidance out here. And if you don't know what you're looking for, everything can look foreign to you. So I try to educate in that way just to say, hey, this is actually what this means. Don't get confused about the language being too boilerplate or too custom or things of that nature. I just want to break down the barriers so that they can really put their hats in the ring, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So let's
My
let's
goal.
let's let's rewind just a little bit. Role as a
Mhm.
contracting officer. What exactly is a
Yes.
contracting officer, and how important it is for people to know people who hold your position?
Yes. So contracting officers are given a delegated authority from the head of the contracting agency. They are able to issue contracts, modifications, things of that nature on behalf of the federal government. Contracting officers are the ones who actually sign the paperwork. We are the ones we are the final authority on the contract, on whatever action you're doing, we are the final authority. Contract specialists are usually the ones who handle things in the more administrative area, but we work together to make sure that the contract includes each and everything that is supposed to on behalf of the government, the contractors. So it's important to know who your COs are because we are the final authority at the end of the day. Somebody is signing off on it somewhere. Without that CO signature, it's not fully executed. And so getting into that role and knowing the importance of that role, it's not a responsibility to take lightly because if I sign off on something that's wrong in accordance with the FAR, my livelihood could be at stake. It's a
Mhm.
heavy responsibility. And it's something I didn't even know of until I entered the field right out of college. I didn't even know that this was something to do. But once I got into it and once I got comfortable, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You have to have some type of middleman when it comes to purchasing with taxpayer dollars. You have to
Right.
have some type of regulation over that. So it's a very warranting career field, knowing that I get the opportunity to choose and help select businesses who are well deserving and that sometimes are underlooked or just underappreciated or overlooked when it comes to these opportunities. So that's what COs are. It's a joy to be one. I know sometimes it could be a pain because of all of the technical language, but it's really a cool job.
Right. So what so you went to school. Did you go to school specifically? Did you know that you were gonna end
No.
up how did that happen after
So
grad?
I am an accounting major, a business administration minor. And then I literally just got an email one day from Social Security Administration. That's where I started my federal career. They reached out to our College of Business because this is a business function on behalf of
Mhm.
the federal government. So it was just an entryway into the federal government. That's all I've known. My grandmother worked federal government 30 years. A few of my aunts still work in federal government, SES. So it's kind of always been drilled like, get that good government job,
Yeah,
retire, do this, do that.
yeah.
But I didn't go looking for it. It literally came to me. So I interviewed, I got the job. I started my federal career September 2014 as a purchasing agent. And so that's like the lowest level of the contracting career that you can start at.
Mhm.
And I really kind of started to love it because it's kind of like shopping, but with rules. I like to
Yeah,
shop. So
yeah.
you're
Right.
like figuring out the best deals, figuring out the best way to acquire it. So that's how it kind of started for me. And then once I became more aware of what different agencies do,
Mhm.
that's where I'm like, okay, I can put my passion into it now just to want to really invest into really figuring it out. And it's not just a job anymore. And I've always liked the idea of business. So I did do some consulting on the side as I've had my career, but um, I've really just tried to put all of my focus into my career, and it's
Mhm.
been rewarding for sure. But I like knowing that people can start with an idea and then make it grow into this big, massive corporation just from
Yeah,
one idea. Like that's so powerful to me. And then
yeah.
to know you can monetize that
Mhm.
if you're in the right rooms. Because unfortunately, it is true, your network is your net worth. And I
Yeah,
don't like that sometimes because it's
yeah,
like, okay, well, what are you supposed to do if you don't have the network or you don't have the ability to get it? So
yeah,
that's my goal to say, hey, here's the information. It's up to you what you do with it. But here,
yeah.
I at least want to show you so that you have a level playing field.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know that, like, especially because you have such a critical role in how funds and things are spent, there are like various vehicles that opportunities kind of roll out. And can you kind of touch on the different types of vehicles and like the process before it becomes like an open opportunity for the end user?
Yeah. So definitely it all starts with market research, right? So need comes depending on what it is. We create a need just because the agency has determined, okay, we need this now. Our job as a CO is to now find ways in partnership with our end users and program offices on how to acquire it so that the government is not at risk, and just making sure that all of our boxes are checked to make sure federally we're doing the right things. And so there are so many different avenues that you can acquire things if it's a commercial product or service. Usually GSA is the main place that people like to go, either there or NASA Soup or NITAC. NIH has their own GWAC, well, government-wide acquisition contract. Like they have their own thing too, that you can utilize to acquire these different supplies and services. And that usually is the easier route. Not saying that that's always the right route, but depending on what you're getting and if it's something that's commonly acquired, that's something that can be done. We also, depending on where department you work for, so commerce, we have established strategic sourcing vehicles that are our own vehicles that we can order off of independently. So we may do them against GSA or against NASA Soup, but we've established them ourselves so that we can service all of our bureaus alongside of the contractors, but it just gives a more way to be streamlined. So that's not the only way we do contracting. We still do cradle to grave things too, but that's become a big thing for us, bread and butter. There's different ways to do it. Definitely working with SBA when you're in an 8A program, that's a different way to be able to acquire businesses or at least get and put in front of agencies because they're always looking to meet that 8A goal. But it's so many different ways that you can navigate it. But my advice, I don't know if we're in that yet or if you want to pause, but my recommendation, definitely if you can qualify as 8A, go for it because they give you the tools and the knowledge on how to move through that program to be put in front of these agencies because there are different thresholds that you have where you can just award directly to a company. So there's different things that can happen. It just depends on what you can actually provide the government. And if you're selling what the government has, because if you're doing something, I don't know, something personal to you, but it's not something the government needs, you got to kind of rethink what you're doing and why you want to be in business with the government.
Right. That makes 100% sense for sure. So you mentioned 8A. Is that your preferred, is that the agency's preferred set aside program, or do you also work with other set aside?
We work with everyone. We work with everyone. So 8A is one of them that's kind of highlighted as, you know, a big one if you're really trying to enter into the federal space. But no, we do all types of set asides all the time. So woman owned is a big one. Hub zone set asides are a big one. Just straight out small business ones are a big one as well. Service disabled, veteran owned small businesses, just the simple veteran owned small businesses. Like we try to do it all because we are mandated to do it all.
That's good. Yeah. So what are some of the common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make when trying to do business either with the Department of Commerce or just federal agencies in particular?
I think being over, and this is not, I promise it's not a criticism, but being overly zealous to be a prime first. It's nothing wrong with trying to be a sub first.
Right.
Saves you more time, saves you more money. You're partnering with somebody who has something already established. And you can grow to that point of being a prime in the future. It's limitless. But if you could take the time to just try to connect with a business that's already, if they have successful contracts that are already in place, it takes nothing to want to put your head in the ring at the subcontractor level first, just so that you can build up that experience with the federal agency because it still counts for you too. Like they don't get all of the credit because you're doing the work too. So that's a big thing that I see. It's like, and I don't think that it's wrong. It's just you have to look at the pros and cons of trying to really just go after the big fish yourself without any experience really in the federal space, because that's something that a lot of federal agencies look for. You may have had experience at the state or the local level, but when it comes to federal, especially if it's just it's so many different levels to dealing with a federal agency. So like for me, we are a full department that's bigger than just, so one of the other agencies I worked for was Federal Election Commission. Federal Election Commission has less than 400 employees total. Department of Commerce oversees at least 7 to 8 bureaus. It's on its own. So we have a department and then there are bureaus that fall under us that all have acquisition needs. That's a big thing to try to jump into, and not saying it can't be done, but you just have to consider that when trying to enter into the federal space. Just look at all of the different options and there's opportunities everywhere.
So where do people, like if someone was interested in working with either the Department of Commerce or any of the bureaus that you guys kind of work under you, where is there a list of crimes somewhere, or where would they find that information on of who to
So
partner with?
yes, that's a great question. So FPDS, so Federal Procurement Data, the system
System.
that we track the actual contracts, actions, that's one place to find it because it's up to date and accurate. Another place would be just surveying our sites just to see who we have partnered with, because sometimes that information is put out there depending on the articles and stuff that come out about us if it's something that's recently awarded. Another thing is SAM.gov. We have contract opportunities out there for a reason. There are certain things that are posted out there because we're required to. Then, if you see that we have just awarded, I don't know, a $3 million contract on SAM.gov, you'll see who we awarded it to.
Yeah,
That's your opportunity to say, let me try and contact them so that I can see what I can offer them in support of this requirement here, especially if it's
absolutely.
something that you already occupy.
Yeah.
So that's one place. But then also, we have the procurement forecast as well. That just shows what's coming up.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's not always sole sourced. That
Yeah.
is open for competition as well. And so when those forecasts are out, you can gauge it that way too to see, okay, this may be something open market, so I can still kick it over to spam.gov. And then keeping your eyes open to see how we're going to acquire it, because then if other people that are maybe making interest into it, you can partner
Yeah.
with their efforts as well. And then industry days.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying it. I wanted to take some time to invite you to join me in the GovCon Challenge. The GovCon Challenge takes place once a month, where I invite a bunch of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to come and have me teach you the 5 things you must do to pre-qualify your business to land lucrative contracts with the government. So join me in the GovCon Challenge. Click on the link in the description. You'll be glad you did. Join as VIP for exclusive behind-the-scenes information, and you could become a part of the top 1% of entrepreneurs across the nation. Now back to the video you were watching.
Two, that's a big one as well. Sometimes,
Yes.
depending on what we're acquiring, then you're kind of able to see who else is in the room sometimes. That's
Mhm.
the way to also connect with people as well. It's like, hey, you thinking about, participating on this? Me too. Let's
Yeah.
join efforts. That's an option too. So,
Networking, building relationships, like all of that stuff is it's very important, because most people
yes,
think that it's a straight line. Like doing business with the government is just a straight line. Like you just
it's a
look for
roller coaster.
opportunities. It's a roller coaster, and it goes in circles, and it maybe look
Yeah.
like a triangle. It's like all
Yes.
moving parts, but you have to be versed on it. You have to be flexible and understand how to
Yes.
really navigate, right? So what are some of the like products or services that you would say your agency or sub agencies like purchases the most?
It's so many different things
If
because it really depends
on
on
the
the
needs,
bureau.
it depends on the
Yeah.
needs. Yeah.
So like for example, I've recently worked on our strategic sourcing initiative for printers. While it seems so simple, it's not that simple. It's a common need, but that's something that's acquired and then it comes with monthly maintenance and things of that nature. But then we have things for federal research that we do. We
Yeah.
have, it just really depends on the need. So we have certain subscriptions that we need,
Mhm.
certain other IT related acquisitions that we need. We still have supplies, we still have facilities. And that's a thing too. I feel like in this tech boom, a lot of people are trying to also transition over to, oh, let me just hop into the tech space of
Yeah.
sales. And the government still has buildings and
Yeah.
we still have needs that meet the building. So
Right.
I was just at the government procurement conference on this earlier this week, and sometimes we try to work with some established companies that are doing like the facilities things, but it just made me remember, hey, this is something that we still need too. We
Yeah.
still need hands on the ground to take care of our facilities. We still
Right.
need assistance with mailing and lodging and all different types of things, event planning. The needs are endless. I actually just awarded a contract for graphic design. We need tons of
Yeah.
things, and you just have to know and be in position for when we need it.
Right.
I
Right.
think that's the key. So going back to that forecast
Yeah.
conversation that I mentioned first, you have to know what's coming out. And that's
Mhm.
something that as a government, we probably could do better at, just
Mhm.
maybe trying to post more to say, hey, we need this. Hey, this is coming out.
Yeah. Mhm.
But we have various needs, and it's something that everyone can meet, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is really good. This is good information, great tips. And so I hope y'all listening, taking notes and
Yeah.
ready to execute on this stuff. Cause like it's coming straight
Yeah.
from the decision maker, right?
Right.
So what about like, so how does a person like what is the best process to getting awarded like a sole source contract with like your agency?
So I think that, of course, definitely it goes back to the need, but because we really are trying to make sure that we do enhance competition,
Mhm,
we don't always try to look to sole source, but there are certain areas where we can. The
mhm.
best bet usually is if you're an 8A company or if you fall under one of the GWACs, like through GSA or something, where it gives us the threshold to be able to do so at a
Yeah.
certain amount. So we had like an IT infrastructure contract, it's services essentially, but we were able to use GSA stars to award like a $4.5 million action directly to a company. We're
Mhm.
able to do that just because of the vehicle that we use, not necessarily because of going directly like to them alone.
Yeah.
So things like that. I think those are some of the best bets with getting sole source, or if you're in the area to provide the specific need. So currently we have a BPA, blanket purchase agreement, because sometimes I get caught up in the acronyms
And
and
acronyms.
apologies for that.
The ABCs, the alphabet
Government,
soup. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep, government, we love our acronyms, right?
Yeah.
But so we do have a blanket purchase agreement for like parking, because right now our facility is under renovations for some of the courtyard spaces. We had to do a sole source BPA just to make sure that our higher ups had somewhere to park. That went to a specific company just because of the radius, not necessarily because
Yeah.
there aren't other companies in the area
Yeah.
who could provide it. It
Mhm.
just literally happened because of proximity. So it really just it really depends on what we need at the moment and
Mhm.
if we can really make it make sense to justify why we have to go to you. And so we could, you just have to have a good case to us and to our customer to know that, oh, this is the only person that can really do this.
Yeah.
Now, if you have it, and it's also when it comes to resellers, if you are a company that's a manufacturer that where you don't have resellers, but we have an ongoing need, most likely we're going to sole source it. So it really just depends.
So, are there any like specific spending goals that your agency has?
As far as the dollar value, not necessarily. I think their goal is just to make sure they spend what they were given so that the budget isn't cut. But we do have goals as far as the types of set asides we have to
Yeah.
make.
Hmm.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, of course,
Right.
but for each socioeconomic group, we do have a goal, a percentage goal that we do have to meet, that we are required to meet as an agency. And so, in that regard, we have certain allotted for small business, certain allotted for women-owned small business,
Yeah.
and all of the other economic factors that we do try our best to make sure we meet our goals. Now, my specific agency, our contracting shop, we exceed our goals because we really are passionate about working with small businesses. I really truly love working with my small business specialist because she used to be a CEO, but she drifted into that side to advocate for small businesses. And
Yeah.
sometimes we butt heads because it's like, all right, girl, come on, let's get this paperwork going so we can get it on about our thing. But she's like, she makes us sit down and consider, okay, I see that you got 20 small businesses you said are capable of meeting this, but it's like five of them that's a woman-owned small business. You don't think you can do a targeted set aside?
Yeah.
So like working with those things. And so
Love that.
we really do believe in what we're saying. Like we're not just out here trying to give to the big players. We
Yeah.
do focus on small businesses as well. So
I
those
love
are
that.
our goals, really.
I love that. I love the advocacy. Tell her I said, hey, thank you
I
for
will.
advocating for small
Yeah.
business. Thank both
Yeah.
of you. The efforts, it's a team. It takes the
Yes.
efforts of the whole department and all the team players to make these opportunities available. So we definitely appreciate
Mhm.
the work that you all are doing
Absolutely.
in helping us for sure. So, okay, so when it comes to micro purchases, sometimes we like most time people ignore like lower hanging fruit. There are so many different entryways that are easy. Like you said, subcontracting may be the best way to enter into a business relationship with a specific agency as opposed to
Mhm.
trying to jump out and just be a prime, right? And then there are like micro purchases. Can you talk a little bit about micro purchases, how it works, and like if you guys have a specific set amount of spending in that particular way?
Absolutely. And so just for the education piece,
Yeah.
$10,000 is our micro purchase threshold for supply. Sometimes this gets confused for services and construction, but that's not the case. I see
Right.
that very often. So
Yeah.
10,000 is for supplies only. It should be for supplies only, which means that I can go out and buy supplies from whoever I want within
Mhm.
reason for 10,000, it's up to $10,000
Yeah.
in one purchase. This
Mhm.
can either be made through a purchase card or through a purchase order, which is fine.
Mhm.
Now, of course, we still have to do our market research, but this is something that can be done. And
Mhm.
depending upon what it is and how long we'll have it, it's certainly okay to do. When it comes to services, that threshold is $2,500.
Mhm.
If you're trying to provide a service, that is something that can be done, but we try not to break it up, just say, oh, we need it one time. Oh, think we'll need it again, like just for this recurring need of services, because then it's technically not a micro purchase anymore.
Right.
But if we had something that could really just be met one time, up
Mhm.
to $2,500, we can. And then when you jump over to construction, then
Okay.
it's $2,000. And so that's something that we do. It definitely depends on what it is. So for some small purchases for our cafeteria renovation contract, my core contracting officer representative, she was able to try to conduct a couple of purchases for some equipment under 10K. Very easy to do. You can find someone to find where you want to buy it, and she could use a purchase card for that. And that also still takes market research to do. But that's something, just an example of, hey, we still do it. We just try our best to make things streamlined to where sometimes we don't have to, especially if it may be a recurring need.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. So is there anything else that you like to, like any other tips or best advice that you would like to give for anybody that's either just entering in this space or maybe they just kind of been navigating and are looking to like take their business to the next level?
Just say definitely don't be discouraged. I know what our economy looks like right now, but that is not the full picture of your ability to really knock into the federal space when it comes to government contracting. I'd also say invest in your business, not necessarily monetarily, but by the connections that you make. At any time where you hear about conferences that government personnel will be attending, put yourself in the room. Just for example, I went to our 33rd government conference. That means that something that's ongoing where you've had the opportunity to meet with agencies, other small businesses, and they even offered matchmaking sessions where we're able to just share the information, one-on-one with the business. Like you literally had 15 minutes of time with a contracting officer. That's gold compared
Oh,
to, oh, let me just make this couple $100,000, because that one connection with getting in a room could
yes.
land you $1 million one day. It's
Yeah.
possible, and I've seen it happen. And
Hmm.
so just don't count yourself out with certain things and just put yourself in the room when it comes to things that we're posting and even connecting on LinkedIn. Like some people may not respond. That's something I try to do better at, just because you just never know who you're going to meet and what opportunities you can lead them to. And just when it comes to the solicitations, when you do want to apply, when it comes to submitting or looking at possibly entering to the solicitation phase, use the question and answer period as your
Yeah.
time to shine.
Yes.
Ask the questions, because if we can't answer them, or if we don't answer them, then you don't have the best chances of putting the best proposal in. Use that time wisely. Like, don't wait for other people to ask questions. Don't think that any question is stupid. Ask the questions, because it may give the customer or the CO something else to think about, and it may work in your favor. Can't promise that it always will, but at least you're trying, and at least we know you're serious about
Right.
actually entering into this contract if you win.
That's good.
So those are some of my takeaways. And just don't be afraid to just make those connections. Like sometimes emails may not be responded to as part of the game, but, and
Mhm.
I will say this is busy season coming up. So just give
Yeah.
COs some grace.
Yeah.
Try to maybe reach out like October, November-ish, because we're
Yeah.
off of that high of end of the year craziness.
Yes. Yeah.
So just little tips and tricks. Just try your best to just connect as best you can. But
Good advice. Good
those are the
advice.
things I leave with. Mhm.
Okay, so before we go, where can people learn more about the upcoming events that's happening? Is that posted on a website, or do they need to be registered in order to receive that invite via email?
So it depends on what they are. I do know for commerce, we are having an industry day. I believe it should be on our website. I do know that it's happening in Gaithersburg.
Mhm.
That is all that I'm sure of at this time because I won't be attending but it is held by Commerce. And I
Mhm.
think we do have some more upcoming industry days, but usually it's something that's on our website
Mhm.
or in specifically under the acquisition areas.
Mhm.
And then sometimes on LinkedIn, people will find a way to make sure that that information is shared too. I
Okay.
believe we have a page on LinkedIn for commerce. So just tune in there and literally just trying to keep in contact with some of the contacts that you've made. So if someone has reached out to me directly, I try to send over whatever I have that I can
Yes.
share from time to
Yes.
time as well.
Well, thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Jamaica. This has been very, very informative and a lot of great nuggets there. So you guys
Yes.
make sure you follow through, do the things, take the steps. She's giving y'all the game, but definitely we appreciate you for your heart to really help small businesses and everything that you guys are doing out there. So we appreciate you for bringing value, and definitely we'll be connecting with other CEOs across
Yes,
various
yes.
agencies because of the work that you're doing and the advisory. So.
You're very welcome. And I just hope it was something that people can really take away and use the tangible tools and just really apply them, like you
All right, so
said.
you guys make sure you check out Jamaica Anderson information for the Department of Commerce. We're going to link in the show notes below. So make sure you guys go check out the next upcoming event, and maybe you can meet Jamaica in person or whatever at the upcoming events. Build those relationships is definitely key on the journey of government contracts. Until next time, we'll see you.